Hey, dude, Benner. Do you know? Holy crap, Benner! Do you know this Shadow
Shadow, yeah,
Beasley?
I know Shadow.
Hey,
If it's Shadow Heathens, yeah, I know Shadow Heathens is a good guy.
good, good. So you vouch for him?
Yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Shadow. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Shadow. Rob's house, Rob's rules. If I put my hand up, you have to shut up.
Okay. I just haven't seen Ben in ages and just wanted to make sure that he's been okay.
That's okay. Yeah.
Hey, man, yeah, been good. Thanks for asking.
Oh,
Yeah, it's been a while. I was worried that something might have happened to you. Good to see you.
Yeah, just hard to get in hangouts. Working.
Oh, good, man. Anyway, sorry, just wanted to touch base and make sure that everything had been okay with Ben, because,
oh yeah. Hey,
talk to somebody for ages, you start worrying about it when you don't see him for a while.
Yeah, no, that's fine. That's fine. It's just that, I've had a lot of trouble with fucking trolls and people with egos and all that. So I've designed a very strict communication level, but it's not really that strict once you settle into it. But it just stops the bullshit. So it's not about me being a tyrant or anything like that. So in this place we're all equals, but I really, really, really want people to stay true and stick to the truth. And sometimes that means calling egos into account. So that's all. That's all. Nothing bigger. So feel free to chat and do whatever you want to do. Talk about whatever you want. But they're just, if we get any fucking trolls in, I'll stop proceedings and I'll deal with them. Yeah. Anyway, Benno, what else do you want to talk about, dude? Or, well, Benno, you might like to have a catch up with your mate. I mean, do whatever you want.
Actually, you just said something that kind of confused me. What do you mean, people with egos?
Well, 98% of the population has got a fucking ego.
Well, technically everybody does, but the ego is, psychologically speaking, is just the expression of the self.
No, I'll tell you exactly what it is. I said it before and you're not listening. All right?
No, I'm sorry. I was just going through and somebody referenced that Benna was in here, so I just thought I'd pop in to say hi to Benna. Sorry.
Oh, no, that's okay. No need to apologize. We're just having
are you using ego in a way other than the way psychology uses it?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So we're not talking like ego, super ego, and id here.
No way. That's bullshit. Yeah.
So you don't believe that there's the subconscious mind as well as the animal impulses within an individual?
Well, just to give you the short story and try and do it quickly, Bina, I have to respect the man's request, so I will now.
Yeah, it's all good.
Okay, and maybe we can turn this into a thing, but my position's firm, so I've achieved the enlightened state. I know specifically what that means and what it is, and.
If you may, what does enlightened mean to you? Because over the course of history, every single culture has had its view of what enlightenment is. What does enlightenment mean to you?
Yeah, well, no, not to me. This is what it actually is. So what it is the absence of false notional ideas about reality. So in other words, when we're collecting data comes in through the senses. Right, and there's, I'm sort of skipping over the joint, so I'm a little bit worried about that, but I don't want to prolong it, so I'll just say at this point, and then I'll go back and explain a little bit more in a minute. But essentially, what ego specifically is a collection of false notional ideas about what reality is, right? So they're not true statements. They can never, ever be validated in reality. So, and there's reasons for how they are formed. So the false notional idea in reality, and the reason that it occurs is because of this self...
Hang on, Rob. I'm sorry, but can I interrupt you for just one moment?
Absolutely.
Can you please collect your thoughts for 1 second, because you're kind of all over the map right now a little bit.
Well, yeah, but no, my thoughts are pretty good. I mean, it appears that way to you.
Well, the way you're expressing them isn't clear enough is really kind of the issue.
Yeah, but no, that's your problem, not mine.
Well,
I'm
what it
I'm
sounds
trying
like you're
hard.
talking about is it sounds like you're using the word ego in lieu of personal perception.
No, 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 not perception. This is real world stuff. So,
Well, you're talking about the actual input
hang on,
from
dude,
perceiving
dude,
reality,
dude,
though.
dude. I'm going to exercise my control, so just hold on. If you don't mind, just hang 10 for a minute. I'm going to try and give you the full context, and that might help. So, and you know, maybe if you've got some questions, because you'll be tempted, and this is part of the ego nature on your side, you'll be tempted to want to, and you may not even like the idea, and I can explain explicitly why that happens. But anyway, basically this is what happens. And I'll check with you and see if you agree along the journey. Right, so first thing is the time, there's only the concept of now. So there's only the present moment from the point of view of collection of data. You know, what do I mean by that? I mean our senses are the only things that we have to bring information from the external reality into our minds. Yes, so do you agree with that?
Well, I mean, that's certainly true enough. I mean, after all, how we actually interpret all input is going to be based upon how we perceive the reality that we live in. Now, we do live in the now. Now, the past and future may technically exist, but we do exist only in the now.
Correct.
The past and future are only constructs based upon our memories as well as our anticipations.
Absolutely, absolutely. Correct. Yeah, there's some couple of subtleties there that we could get into, but we won't for now. So, right, so what we've got is this is how we inform ourselves, our senses. Now, at the sense level, it's absolute. It's totally objective. It's got no variation at that level. So it's just bringing a stream of information in, and it's coming on board into the memory. So that's the first data set.
If I may for a moment.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay, are you saying that our senses and what we perceive is absolute, or what we're attempting to perceive is absolute?
Our senses are, well, the reality is a constant in a given time slot called the now. Everything in that at that particular point in time is absolute, right? The senses.
Objective, you mean by absolute, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Now the senses, right? Because of the design of the senses, granted there are physical variations across the senses of a number of different areas, but they do what they were designed to do, and that's all they do. They're an objective collector of data at a given point in time called the now. We cannot use our senses to go back in time. We have to rely on stored memories, and we can't go forward in time with our senses. We have to rely on some projections that come from the mind. We have to think about and predict and all of the rest of that stuff. So it's that. So now we've got this concept of data streaming in this now, but as it comes on board, there's two survival strategies, right? And these are the underpinning elements of good and evil, and they're absolute, right? So therefore, when we understand
hang on, I'm sorry. This is kind of where your jump's coming in here.
Okay.
Now, the thing is, when you're perceiving something, what happens is, for example, there's a reflection of light in the eyes and these kind of things. Well,
hold it. You just said something, so I've got to pull you up when I recognise where the understanding sort of things, and this might get a little tense for you, but fuck, it's the way it is. You use the word perceive. Perception only occurs in the mind, no other place.
Yes. Yeah. But the thing is, the perception is where that input is processed.
Hang on, dude. We haven't got to the mind yet. We're still on the way in, so don't confuse things.
Well, actually, what I'm just trying to say here is that when you say that the input, are you saying the input itself is objective, or once it hits the eye, the input from the eyes to the brain, etc.? Because that part there is not objective.
No.
Because the brain actually has to decipher the input as it's coming in.
Well, exactly. But what I'm probably put it simplistically, what I'm saying is that the senses, right? The senses are absolute. There's no error yes, but there is variation, but it's scientifically very verifiable.
Well, but that is a difference. That isn't absolute when it's varying from individual to individual based upon the function of the varied body parts that are receiving
Yeah.
the
So
information.
what you're talking about is things like color blindness, right? Yeah.
Well, it goes beyond that. I mean, I had a stroke a while ago, and shortly after the stroke, there was a vast segment of my vision that wasn't actively being processed. I could look down a street and there could be a car 2 feet from me, and I would not see the car. My mind
Yeah.
was automatically filling in the gaps.
Yeah. I
So,
understand what you're saying. I understand what you're saying.
so the
So
signals are the signals aren't absolute. It's a matter of how they're processed ultimately.
no. Hang on. No.
What's absolute is the external, not once it hits the eyes.
No. Hang on. Because I don't want to. I want to stay. This is good. It's a good discussion. We're getting into the detail. So, chill.
No, that's okay. I'm just trying to
No,
see
that's
if we
okay.
can get you to rein this in a touch.
No. What you're doing is right because we've got to work through everything. We've got to examine it. I mean, I've done all this shit, right? I do this countless times with other people, but this is new for you, so we have to go through the process and examine it. So, well, there's something you may not know about me. So, I wrote a book called "What Is This Thing Called God?" And I'll be brief. See, I'm preempting your concerns. And I found that this guy, Jesus, was a real dude. So I'm a huge fan, but he's not the Christian Jesus. So I don't know whether you're religious or not, are you?
No, not particularly, no.
Okay, good.
Frankly,
anyway,
it doesn't resonate with me.
Yeah, so basically, so I've done a lot of research and I've looked at many different aspects of the spiritual context and that. And, I'm really confident with my findings. Get why I mentioned Jesus. Anyway, doesn't matter. So what we're talking about, right, this variation, right, that you're talking about, just like color blindness, right, it's not the normal standard, right, of the normal set of the population. There's been some sort of variation. But the thing is, we can scientifically and very precisely explain specifically what the variation is and why it occurs. So,
yes, and that variation is in the eyes in the case of color blindness.
Yeah, that's right, exactly. Yeah. So that's okay. It still doesn't ruin our claim for objectivity, right, at the sense level, because we can scientifically. So we're still in the realm of knowledge, knowing.
Well, I understand that we're in the realm of knowledge, but the thing is, the eyes themselves aren't necessarily absolute. There is variation within the physical eyes and the taste buds and what have you.
Yeah, but that's okay. Still okay, because if we're talking about normal, because you've got the light spectrum, right? We don't see the full spectrum. We just don't.
Yeah, but that's external.
Yeah, exactly. But within the set, it's still absolutely true to say that the senses perform constantly across population and time, and we're able to accurately explain any variation.
Well, within the limitations of our perception and our genetics.
No, keep perception out of it until we get to the brain.
No, I'm talking perception in terms of the tools we use to actually receive that input.
What tools are they?
Well, that would be your eyes, your tongue, your nose, etc., your ears.
Yeah. So what are you saying?
Well, what I'm saying is that the data, so to speak, upon reception, is going to be distorted by that perception, not simply by the mind, but by the tools we use to receive the data.
No, that's an incorrect statement. That is never, ever true. Never.
Well, what about in the case of color blindness, when you have different rods and cones in your eyes?
Yeah, but we have a scientifically explainable variation to the norm. So that person's collecting data. Hang on. That person is still collecting data consistently and objectively. It's just different to person B.
But that's why it's not absolute, is because it's different from person to person.
That's not true. That's not true. It is absolute. It is absolutely absolute. It couldn't be more absolute.
I'm sorry I have to disagree with you on that.
That's okay. That's okay. So we'll just move on.
Maybe you can. So Rob, maybe you can define objective.
No. That's okay. I think
we're using it for absolute.
No, Bennett. I don't think we need to. I mean, I'm comfortable with where the guy's at. Oh, damn. That was my enlightened friend Luke. He's a young dude, but I promise you he's enlightened. Anyway.
If I may for a moment, Rob, I think there's a little bit of an issue once you get to the notion of it being received by the eyes, the nose, etc., is that all the information outside of the self or beyond one's own personal ego may be objective, but the moment that input comes to us, we are going to be limited by our faculties. For example, our eyes can't see the full spectrum, our ears can't hear the full audio range.
Yeah,
so once it comes to us, whatever objective data might be external of the self or outside of the ego is going to be limited.
Dude, got it. One thing that might be a little annoying to you, but I get the, because I've been debating this for a bit, I get the line of inquiry, so I jump in and I say, got it, so that we can try and get through it with, the most efficient. So, I hear what you're saying, but you're wrong, so I think we need to park that and just move on and see how things play out as we move into the extreme. Yeah.
Why are you saying that that's incorrect, if I may?
Because I know, I'm absolutely certain that, that there is no error within the sense organs. Because, well, think about it this way, right? Just think about the normal.
It sounds like a dogma at this point, but continue.
Well, it does, because it's going. See, this may be the ego in you, because the ego doesn't.
It might be the ego in you as well, Rob.
No ego here, dude. Zero, zilch. That's why I'm enlightened. But anyway.
I'm sorry, but that actually sounds like a fairly egotistic statement that you just made there.
Yeah, but that's because an ego is observing it. Not remember.
Well, actually. It's more than that, actually. One of the greatest spiritual teachers of all time, Jiddu Krishnamurti, actually pointed out that those that are enlightened would never claim to be enlightened.
I got a special. I'm a special case. Hang on, just a second, mate. Lukey, how are you, dude? Lukey, come back.
Hey, Bennett.
Oh, Jesus. Luke's.
Sounds like Rob saying that the senses are objective.
Yes, I am. I'm saying that absolutely, but I don't want to have that debate. I want to try and get to the point where we look at the bigger picture, right?
Well, I don't know. I think objective, without being absolute, I might be able to accept. To a degree, at least.
Accept whatever you like. But let's move forward. So we've got this data stream, right, coming on board, right, through the senses, happening in the now. We've got partial agreement and whatever. It doesn't matter. But here's what happens. The data stream comes on board. It passes through. Now, I wonder, how did we go with this last time? Well, we have two survival instincts. Every human does, right, without exception. They have two survival instincts. One survival instinct is about survival of the self, and that's all it gives a shit about. And then you've got a survival instinct that's about the human herd. So if you reflect on nature, right, you'll see that this pattern of two survival strategies is quite evident and prevalent. And it just so happens that we humans have the two. Now, I'm going to read to you, dude, the good old Two Wolves story, and that'll give some colouring to...
Actually, I do have some shamanism in my background. I'm quite familiar with the Two Wolves story. There's the good wolf, there's the bad wolf, and the one that grows is actually the one that you feed. I'm quite familiar with that one.
Good,
the good wolf that represents the better nature of man, and the bad is the worst nature of man.
Well, what that really is, it really is these two survival strategies, right? And so if you think of
importance to the people that created the story, but okay, go ahead.
No, it is. It's exactly what it is.
But anyway, this story initially comes from Native American culture, and that's not actually what it represents to them. It's not two different survival strategies.
Actually,
it's
that's
a
interesting.
matter as whether you feed your better nature or your worse nature.
Hang on, dude.
Interesting.
Yeah. So hang on, dude. So do you know for a fact that comes from Native American heritage? And have you got any evidence?
Actually, yes.
Good. Wow. Because I get slammed that I honestly, well, it's actually really accurate in terms of the human condition. So if you wouldn't mind, I'd really love to get a link or
I
an
believe it's
info.
either Cherokee or Navajo. I'd have to look it up.
Cherokee, I think. Well, it'd be better for me if it's Cherokee. But I don't care if it's Navajo, that's fine. Whatever it really is. But anyway, so getting back on board, those two wolves, that story, right, about selfishness versus authentic selflessness, this duality concept, which, by the way, goes through every fucking spiritual tradition, as you would expect. Because, you know, if you think about evolution, you wouldn't, these aspects, these hardwired aspects wouldn't change. They just wouldn't change within this, you know, in the short term. They'd be a long-term change. So you got these two wolves inside. What happens when the data's coming on board? Unfortunately, it is observed and filtered by the this selfish survival instinct, right? So it's in the mix. So what you've got now is you've got a context of what's happening in the environment at a given point now. So there's that set of data that's streamed on board. So you've got context out here, streamed on board, and then on the way in, you've got this selfish survival instinct, which has a very specific hardwired agenda. So those two elements combined together,
Incidentally, yes, it's Cherokee. I just verified.
Okay, thank you. Oh, if you've got the link there, or if it's something that, yeah, that'd be really handy. Put it in the side chat. So you've got this data stream. So this data stream, when it's at the sensors level, is an absolute report on reality. In other words, it is the truth. It comes on board, it hits this fucking selfish survival instinct, and depending on the circumstances out here, or the context, it will do some interference. And then what it does in that interference event, it basically creates a false representation of what occurred in reality to satisfy, you know, the agenda of this selfish instinct. That leads to the creation of an idea or some notional data in memory that does not and will never map back to the reality, ever. But we've still
hang on. I'm sorry, you lost me here.
Oh, okay.
I can't be going out there trying to find, you know, the origins of that story while listening. So sorry about that, lost focus.
Oh, okay, that's fine. And no problem at all. I like the integrity of your reaction, right? Because some people will just sit there and, you know, just get through it, let you go on forever and fucking ever and ever and say,
yeah, it got to the point that I'm like, okay, I just lost track of what he was saying. So
yeah. So let's go back. All right. So we've got the sensors collecting data, and I'm saying that it's totally objective with knowable variance that can be scientifically validated. So we always remain in the land of knowledge. I'm saying that there is a context to the data, right? There is a context.
yeah.
And that's coming on board as well within the set of data. That's coming in, and on the way in, it meets this selfish survival instinct, which does a judgment call on the context, and if it thinks that it needs to act, it will then act on that context, and it will create, and because of its actions, it creates a misrepresentation. Hello, Luke. A misrepresentation or a lie or a falsehood, false statement about data, about the reality. But
so are you basically saying that once it passes from the senses to the brain, all information is corrupted?
No, not all. No, that's not true. But there are instances. Now we're going to get some interrupt here, but I'll try and control him. But because I am who I am, I always respect the enlightened. And he won't see me enlightened, but I promise you he is. Hello, dude. Yeah. Can you let me finish? Luke, you've got it. Yeah, I know you're putting on a show for me, and I appreciate you having the mute on. Luke, I need you to stay off. No, I need you to stay off for a bit until I finish. I'm doing Sega. Show in broadcast.
You should have muted me.
Stop messing with me. Let me finish. And I appreciate you letting me. Right, Sega, please, if you don't mind, I just want to finish the conversation and then we'll have a chat.
Of course.
Thank you, mate. Oh, Sega, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you doing?
You don't sound quite right good. Are you getting picked by the trolls?
No. I'm actually listening to NFL podcast while you're talking. So it's all good. I'm listening to both at the same time.
Okay, mate. All right, thank you.
You're giving a little bit of echo.
Who, me?
No,
Yeah, it might be you, Sega.
Okay, how about now?
Yeah, just mute your
still
mute.
Okay.
Yeah, good man. Thank you. Okay, so we've got this information coming on board, right? It's passed through right, it colours it and it creates a misrepresentation or an error or false information. So there's a relationship to this notional idea of the self with this false data. And this happens continually. So as we go through life, there are a number of events that create these faulty ideas. So what you actually get in the extent of a lifetime is like a bag full of faulty notional ideas that do not match reality. But they're also accompanied by maybe just dropped off. But they're also accompanied by the true state. So you've got false state, true state. That collection, that's a really subtle thing, but it's really important.
Okay, so you're not saying all incoming data is corrupted, just some of it.
Yeah, I think it's biased just by the context, right, at the collection point, So whatever's happening out in that environment will trigger off this selfish survival instinct. It will then go off and create a false aspect of reality, and it will also be the dominant one. So the true state is sitting there, but it's sort of suppressed, basically.
So in essence, in this case, the ego would be the dogma through which you tend to filter things.
Well, no, the ego is the collection of false ideas that are held in memory, specifically. And how you get to the enlightened state is you actually have to find out what this shit is and fucking clear out all the faulty errors. Because once you've done that, then you learn about how the human form functions and what this choice we have between which wolf to feed. When you learn all that, then you actually hit the enlightened state. You become that alpha person.
The alpha person?
Yeah, I'm using that term to agitate the egos.
The alpha person? Why alpha?
Because I like to agitate egos. Because I get a lot of shit. Well, I'll give you a bit of my background, right?
The thing is, when you go to two wolves to alpha person, I immediately start thinking alpha and beta wolves.
No, it's not like that. Shit, every person.
Okay.
The way it is, right? It's actually not a bad story. The way it is, we're actually born and made perfect. It's just that that interference, right, that creates the error, the false ideas.
I'm sorry, I've got to interrupt for one moment.
Yeah.
When you say we're born perfect, what do you mean by perfect?
Just perfect by design.
Born to sin. I gotta run and get cigarettes. I'll be right back. But you're born to sin, Roger.
The reason why I have to say that is because there are plenty of people born with birth defects or with the diabetes or whatever. I mean, what do you really mean by perfect there?
No, but we are born perfect, and what you're talking about is, well, I'm talking about we have all of the things we need in place, and yes, I acknowledge there are variations across the herd, but
hang on though, because this is what I'm really wanting addressed on this particular issue here. Is, for example, there are kids that are born literally without any brains. There's this thing referred to as mermaid syndrome, in which the person's legs don't properly separate. I mean, that's not perfect.
Hold it. I'll just give you a lesson on efficiencies. You only need to give one specific case, and then
Okay.
deal with
Fair
that.
enough.
Yeah, yeah. Do you understand? So this is a problem. It's not just you. It's a problem, in the large. People want to broadcast a position, and they want to then do a long dialogue. But I learnt this. This is the conceptual idea. You only need a prick to burst a bubble, right? A small pin. You don't need to attack. You don't have to consume the whole bubble to solve it. So your first example was, and let's talk about that.
Well, there are literally children born without brains. That would not be born perfect.
Got it. Okay, now, remember when we were dealing with the sense level? We recognize that there is variation in special cases such as colour blindness, whatever. My statement was, and we're still in dispute, but my statement was that there's still knowable things about reality, so we haven't drifted into things that require belief. We can explain explicitly everything, and so everything remains absolute at the sense level. That was my position. The same statement applies now for this example that you're talking about. We do have a normal standard, designed for humans, and that'll get the Christian people happy. But that's just the reality. See, things are these are the nature of things. This is the way nature works. It's by its design. That's what I mean by design. So, design.
The question is, what ultimately do you mean by perfect? Because it can't be physically perfect or genetically perfect or anything like that.
Yeah. So nature has a design. So if there's no interfering factors, we're born perfect to that nature. But yes, there are variations to that through conditional influences or whatever. Yep. So I accept that that's reality. But for the large part of the population, and I mean the major part, we're born perfect, and where things go fucking wrong is when this ego or the context in the environment fires off the self-survival instinct, and it leads to the creation of false representations of reality in mind. That's it, I think.
Yeah.
No.
The issue we really have is this notion that we're born perfect, because on a genetic level, on a biological level, nobody's actually born in a perfect state. So are you talking in an idealized spiritual sense or in a physical sense?
Certainly spiritually. Well, it's not, but see, spirituality has an absolute reality, right? These survival instincts, they actually exist.
Well, I don't know that survival instincts necessarily linked to the spiritual.
Oh, shit, yeah. They are everything. They are absolutely
survival
everything.
instincts are more part of our base animal nature, not so much of a spiritual thing. The spiritual nature would actually have to transcend the animal nature, wouldn't it?
No, absolutely not.
Really?
I've said, yeah, absolutely. What I've said is absolutely the truth, I promise you. And I can equate it back to teachings of Jesus. The real Jesus.
Well,
the real Jesus, not the guy that walks on water. That's bullshit.
Okay.
Yeah.
I really have nothing invested in that character, so that really doesn't mean much of anything to me.
Okay. No problem. As you wish.
I don't have need for any such characters. I found that the path to enlightenment involved throwing away all dogmas.
Sorry, say that again.
I personally found that the path to enlightenment involved throwing away all such dogmas.
No, you can't ignore. Now, something to think about, right? You've got a number of people across history, right, that talk a very similar talk, and they're well regarded for what they do. The reason that that's the state is because, humans by design, this is how we work. So there's a constant reality that applies to every single human on the planet. And I don't know, I'd have to consider each disability and see if that robbed that person of some of, the core functionality, the two survival instincts and brains and all that junk, because they're all part of it. But on the norm, speaking of the norm, it is a standard, practical design thing, and it's just how we're made. So this idea of, you know, like spooky ideas of spirituality being
Transcendent of the flesh is the phrase you're looking for, I believe.
yeah, all that sort of crap. That's absolute bullshit. That's absolute bullshit.
Okay, so you're saying that everything out of the physical doesn't exist then? That would be kind of where that train of thought would end.
Yeah, correct. That's right.
So if everything out of the physical self doesn't exist, ideally, everything beyond what would classically be referred to as the ego, superego, and id, then how does one get to notions such as God? Because that's something that would have to transcend the flesh.
Okay, I can explain that very explicitly, because that's what my book was, what is this thing called God? So it turns out, because you got to remember that, you know, this dualistic thing about the two wolves applies to every human right through nature. It doesn't change because there's no scope or time to do it evolutionary. So what we know today is what they knew back then in terms of this concepts of good and evil. Now, the concept of good, now Jesus says it, and this is how he says it. And so this was written by a dude, fair income, you know, 40 AD or less. Well, sorry, he died 33 to 36 or something like that. I don't know what that is, but here's how he describes the God.
I believe it was actually 32 and 34. I believe it was 36 when Paul took over the church.
Yeah, I'm not sure I agree with that. I'd be more inclined to go with after the death of Caligula, I think is where Paul, because you've got Agrippa the Great. He's a major player. And when they knocked off Caligula, Claudius and Agrippa the Great helped Claudius into power. And there was a payback to the Pharisees. And there's talk of Saulus being related to Herod Agrippa. So I'm more inclined to think the reclaiming of the lost sheep, if you like, and that was Paul's thing, occurred around 40 AD.
Around 41?
Hey?
I'm sorry, I didn't hear that second half. What you said, 31?
No, I'm saying around 40. I just can't.
Oh, around 40, okay. Well, current scholarship says 30 to 32, but whatever. It's not really an important point.
Yeah. You'll find that I'm against most scholarship, but you'll also hear me say that, fuck them, I think I'm right.
Yeah, I've noted.
Good. So this is what, now this comes from a thing, right, that the scholars called the Gospel of Thomas, and I think they've misnamed it. I think it's more the Gospel of Jesus, which then...
Actually, if I might, is the Gospel of Thomas the one that they've also nicknamed the sayings of Jesus? Or is that a different gospel?
No, that's precisely it, because that's exactly what it is. Yeah. And I'll tell you what, you know, he delivers the full script on being enlightened, but you've got to work out what he's saying. Anyway, here's what he says about the God concept, right? And I hold this to be the real person that's saying this. Jesus said, if your leaders say to you, right, so what he's saying, he's having a crack at, he's identified in his times, would you accept, oh, sorry, I'll ask you a question. Would you accept that religions are politicized?
Yeah, certainly.
Okay.
You can see that especially in the U.S.
It's absolutely true through all of history. And I mean, you just have to think of those nutters over in North Korea, the Kim dynasty.
Well, you could go with that, but I prefer to go with Stalin, who actually became the head of the Orthodox Church in Russia so that he could better control the populace.
Yeah, it's the same phenomena. I mean, they call it the cult of personality, and it's all through history. These pricks. And you know what? It actually tracks back. The root cause of it is the fucking ego.
Cult of personality is technically a little bit different. This is more so just political efficiency with taking control of varied religious bodies to try and promote your own ideologies.
Yeah. I like cult of personality because it gets up their fucking noses.
That's usually referring more to individual cult leaders and what have you, and individual charismatic characters, and that's not necessarily the case with all the leaders that have exploited religion for political gain.
Well, it's certainly the case for Christianity, because what the Romans did, all right, about 70 AD, as part of their propaganda and takeover bid on Christianity, they turned the Jesus story into a cult of personality, and that's where all the magic and shit and all that came from. But anyway, so 3, Jesus said, so this concept, right, that we're talking about leaders using religions for their own end, he picks it up. Fucking, I saw this and I thought, fucking hell, you knew what was going on. He says, if your leaders say to you, look, the Father's kingdom is in the sky, then he says the birds of the sky, so the sky will precede you. So basically he's saying, they're telling you bullshit. If they say to you it's in the sea, then the fish will precede you. So again, that's the Neptune reference. That's bullshit. But he goes on to explain it. Rather, the kingdom is within you and it's outside you. So that's like saying it's the nature. It's the nature of things. When you know yourself, so this is this concept of, in the enlightenment journey, you've got to be authentic about knowing yourself. And that's the way that you cancel out the errors, the error of thinking, error states.
Then you have to let go of the dogmas before you can truly become what you are and understand your own nature.
Well, nothing's added, nothing's taken away, all you're doing is...
Walking away from the dogmas is actually vital to this process, because whatever you see is going to be filtered through these dogmas and corrupted by them. Yeah, it isn't until you really walk away from the dogmas that you see rightly.
We're probably talking about the same thing, but I prefer to use the precise...
You're using the word ego, which unfortunately nobody else uses in that way, which makes it a little bit hard to understand at times.
Yep, I understand that. No, but more specifically, it's faulty ideas in mind that don't have a...
Yeah, that would be a dogma, yeah.
Oh, okay, I didn't understand.
That is a dogma by definition, yeah.
Well, then that's it exactly. That's exactly right. 100% right. Now, and you will understand that you are children of the living Father. So now we've again got this natural context. What he's talking about, remember we spoke about 2 wolves? The second wolf, or the second survival instinct, is for the herd. Think about that for a minute. How does the herd survive? Well, it has to keep a close eye on its neighbour and stay in formation. There's the love thy neighbour principle. So...
Dude, I'm sorry. Every time you present the wolves this way, I'm going to want to buck on it just because of the shamanic background.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll just finish this thing, and then I'd like to talk to you about that, if that's all right.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, but if you know yourself, right? So, in other words, if you deal with the dogma or whatever you call it. Oh, no, sorry. If you do not know yourself. So, in other words, if you leave the dogma in place, you don't address it. Then you live in poverty, and you are the poverty, and that's the ego state, if you like. So you got the enlightened state is free.
And in this case, you're talking emotional poverty, correct?
Well, you could probably call it spiritual poverty, but
that's fine too. That's fine too. Yeah.
Yeah.
You're not talking about literal poverty as we normally consider in terms of economics.
Oh no, shit, no.
Good.
No.
We're fine then.
Well, yeah. I mean, if you walk into a jail, right, and you see the people in there, the prisoners there, you can just smell the emotional poverty, right?
No, that's fine. That's fine. As long as you're using it in that kind of sense, I'm cool. Because I've run into people, mind you, mostly New Agers, that will claim that basically if you focus on negativity, then your entire life will be negative around you. Even just the entire world will suddenly just start doing all kinds of horrible things, and you'll lose all your money and this and that. But if you keep a positive outlook, then money will just arrive in the mail randomly and just stuff. I just making sure you weren't going down that weird New Age road.
No fucking way. But I tell you what, I promise you this: karma is as real as it gets. I mean, you choose to feed the bad wolf, if it bites you on the ass, you get payback.
I don't know if karma is necessarily true, but I do find it to be a useful dogma to hold.
Yeah. Well, I don't look at it as a dogma. It's just it's the way things work. I mean, I've been.
It's one of these things that isn't necessarily provable or isn't necessarily true, but it is still useful in one's life.
Well,
To look
no,
at things that way.
We'll have to agree to disagree. Hang on, I better
That's fine. We're quite capable of doing that, apparently.
Well, that's the way it should be. All right, I'm here, Luke. You can talk now, mate. Come on,
It's
Luke.
a bunch of motherfucking bullshit. Because if you want to mute Luke Dog,
I
the
didn't
show
mute that.
stalker, icon, the show stealer, the representer, the main eventer, the man that is, the myth, the man, and the legend all in one. You're gonna mute that man, Luke Dog?
I didn't mute you, Luke. How'd you go with the other people?
Muted, man. Your mustache is crooked.
How did you go with the other people, Luke?
What other people? I didn't go nowhere. I had to go get cigarettes. I already told you that.
Oh, did you? No, I must have missed.
What other people? What? There's another room going on worldwide, and you didn't tell Luke Dog about it? Wow, Robbie. Wow. Wow.
Wow. Hey, Luke. This is Shadow.
Shadow, I met him.
Ah, okay. All right.
Shadow, how you doing?
I don't recall ever meeting you, actually.
I know, because I made that up.
That's what I thought.
Well, you're welcome.
All right, Luke. Anyway,
To Shadow Man.
Yeah, that's him. Anyway, Shadow. Luke's.
Rob, quit picking on Shadow. Let the guy have a word in edgewise.
Actually, we've been having a rather nice conversation
I heard it.
prior to the interruption.
Whoa. Whoa.
I'm sorry, do you wish me to speak truthfully or not?
No, well, yeah, I don't know. It's a long story.
You so, and I'm talking so.
Yeah, mate. Anyway, Shadow, where are we at? Is we sort of anything else you wanna?
Well, I'm understanding a little bit better where you're coming from. Of course, we still have some areas of disagreement, especially in terms of how one attains enlightenment and what have you.
Yeah.
Now, my particular path, it turned out, was closer to the Buddhist path.
Oh.
Now, granted, I was introduced to shamanism in my teens and ended up inadvertently coming across more of a Jungian Buddhist hybrid without actually ever studying either.
Ooh.
Yeah. Now, Luke will disagree with that position because he's
all the way. Fuck Buddhists.
Oh dear.
Actually, the notion of letting go of the ego actually originates with Buddhism.
I got a big ego, and the ego used to represent America, but it also represents those who will rise up with wings as egos. Wait.
Okay, hang on, I'm confused for a moment. Is this the Luke earlier that you was saying was enlightened?
I am the Luke from earlier, and I knew you. See, I got a better memory than both of you, and I'm drunk and I.
And you just said that you have a big ego, but I thought that the whole premise was...
I knew by your picture, Wolfman.
Hang on, Luke. Luke, please. I need to explain some things to Shadow. All right.
Yeah, because, if you're saying that one needs to let go of the ego, and he's saying that he has a huge ego, we kind of have an issue there.
I got an 8-inch ego. And he goes, cacao!
He messes with people, right? The thing about someone
because I'm having fun.
It's a bit of a persecution scenario in a world that has 95 or what do we say 98% unenlightened people or people with egos. So he is enlightened, I promise you. He's got some interesting ideas, but I see through all of that, and I just see the core person. And there's plenty of markers when you know what you're looking for, and it just is what it is.
Well, at the same point, though, once that perception does enter into the self, it is immediately filtered through, well, as you're calling it, the ego, as I'd call it, varied dogmas, And I'm wondering if some of those might have influenced your judgment.
No, not at all. No.
You sure? Okay.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I'm absolute. I'm 100% done and enlightened. That's what it is. Now my journey is about trying to create, trying to have a crack at creating world peace, which is a big thing, and I know specifically what I have to do and where I'm going and all
Robbie,
the rest of that.
why are you explaining yourself to a degenerate?
He's not. He's all right.
I didn't say he was.
Well, you just did.
I was talking
Oh,
about
no,
Bulldog.
he might have been referring to himself. I don't know.
No, I was referring to Bulldog. Thanks.
Oh,
thanks
okay.
for
Well, I don't
insulting
see
me live on air. Wow.
I don't see a bulldog in here.
Wow.
Oh, what are you talking about? Hang on, Luke. Luke, I want to explain something, please, to...
Explain it to me, Mr. Feeney.
No, not you. You know everything.
No, I don't. I
yeah.
learn.
All right, okay. Now, the guy Bulldog he's talking about, so I wrote this book, What is This Thing Called God? And then I came online to promote it about 12 months ago. And unfortunately, I ran into, and you're probably familiar with them, internet trolls. And basically their caper is they gather together as a group and they pick the shit out of people and frustrate them, and then they giggle about doing that sort of stuff. And I didn't know that that's how it worked at that time, and they got me all riled up, and it actually ended in a stay in healthcare.
Oh, I actually have a strike against my channel right now because of internet trolls.
I got 3 strikes against 3 Luke Dog channels because of internet trolls, and the 4th one that ain't even flagged, but YouTube itself won't let me on because I talk too much truth for the motherfucking masses. Worldwide.
Worldwide. Okay, Luke, thank you. And anyway, so all right. And so, you know, I'm back now, not on a vengeance thing, but I was just curious, right? So I understood the phenomenon of how the faulty ideas came on mind, and you know, I knew a bit about the truth aspect, and I was just fascinated by, you know, because it seemed so painfully obvious that I could see both states. Oh, here we go. This is the man in question, right? I was just going to talk to him. This Bulldog guy, right? He's one of the leaders of a troll patrol, and I'm going to be taking legal action against him because he won't come clean.
Legal action for trolling you. That's not normally how things work. But okay.
No, well, what happened was they actually created, you know, some health issues, you know, and it's all documented. And it's all due to these people. They actually had a conscious, deliberate action on. So I'm going to solicitors here in Melbourne.
I don't think that's actually actionable. My wife, mind you, is a paralegal, not down there in Australia, mind you. But at the same point, unless they, you know, do it maliciously to cause a heart attack or something like this, normally, and even then they'd have to know that you had a heart condition initially to begin with. It's usually not actionable.
Well, maybe it may not be now, but I think that, well, I'd like to explore the possibilities because I think it's an important thing. These guys, they ruin the fabric and the potential of the internet. I mean, we should be able to have discourses freely without harassment. I shouldn't be put in care.
Preacher.
Okay, all right. But anyway,
cocksucker motherfuckers, and you do want to block Luke Dog 3 times and then fuck with his 4 channel? Fuck you, YouTube, you assholes, you suits and ties, you fucking pieces
of shit. The thing is, too, hang on, Luke.
I want to tell them how I feel.
I know. You keep telling them.
I'm sick of it, man. I have live channels every night, man. Every night.
Here's another troll, right? So I'm going to sort it. Now, one of the things they do, Shadow, one of the things they do is they porn bomb your site. So I've just got to.
Were you talking
Hey, Jello, how's it going, man? Oh, wait, no, sorry, he's off screen.
Yeah,
look,
no, Jello is a bad person. I'm telling you.
Why is he a bad person? Let me talk to him and find out for myself.
He sits in the background like a tortured chester.
Let me talk to him. Oh, Bulldog. Lance Bulldog.
Please, hang on. Luke, Rob
Luke.
is the host. Please let him speak. Bulldog. I mean, sorry, Luke.
Calm down.
So, this
Thank
group of people, right, are absolutely responsible for that stay in healthcare, and I can prove that explicitly. But now that I'm back and I'm enlightened, right,
Better than ever.
And better than ever. Yeah, that's true. And and there's no way that they can sort of control me. In fact, I've actually been controlling them for about.
Trolling them. Nice.
Yes, I've been.
Two wrongs make it right.
I troll. I'm fully in control, and what I've managed to do is I've cultivated an environment where I've got from them a whole bunch of evidence, right? That shows.
Didn't they give you an offer though?
Luke, I'm sorry. Rob's trying to speak. Can you please let him?
You don't gotta apologize.
He's enlightened, mate, so he usually injects something in, so I can't hold him back. He's his own man. But
hang on though, please, if I might, Rob. Now, okay, you say that it's a matter of whether it's for the self or for the herd. Well, if you're speaking and trying to have an audience, well, that would be for the herd, correct? Well, if he keeps interrupting, wouldn't that be for his self and not actually for the benefit of the herd?
Well, if you were enlightened, you would know the answer to that already.
Hey,
actually, I do know the answer.
Shut up.
I'm sorry, I had to say it, fucker.
I know. See, the thing is about enlightenment, there is no, we will not be told what to do by anyone, no matter who they are, because we see ourselves as equally worthy across the planet. And not only that, because we're enlightened, we're actually very clear-minded and very truthful, very good people. So, but we just don't take no shit. And we respect each other. So I don't interfere with Luke, right? Luke's Luke, and he just does what he does. I have to ask him to sort of do something, and usually he'll respect me because he'll pick up on my tone that I need to do something. But equally, the thing about living in the now, right? You're ever present to the data stream, right? And it's very accurate, and you're very alert to every minute detail. And he may spot something that I'm missing, so because I'm concentrating on you. Anyway, I don't know whether that makes any sense.
That's the problem. He likes to concentrate on people instead of concentrating on certain things that we need to concentrate on. For example, shut up. Let's be honest. Do you know really worldwide what we know?
Not yet. We'll try and make it that way.
What do I know? What you know?
Yeah.
I don't know what you were doing at the age of 8. I don't know what you were doing at the age of 12. There are many things that you know that I wouldn't, because I've not lived your life, nor have I walked in your shoes.
Yeah.
But you wish you could. I get it. And a lot of people do.
No, because each of us is defined in part by our...
Shadow.
Stop it, Luke. Stop it, please. Shadow, if you allow him to, he'll, he's been harassed by or frustrated by a lot of people. So he's an expert at playing the game, and I promise you, he'll frustrate you. You'll never frustrate him.
Right, he's so right. That's the thing.
I know.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to go like.
I think what we'll do now. Hang on, look. Look, Shadow, it might be an idea if we call it quits on the discussion, and now we'll move to the main game, the internet trolls. Now, you know this guy called Jello?
Well, actually, yes, I do know Joe. I've known him for quite a while. I do a regular series called Cult Night, and I find that he's actually quite a great entry.
Well, he's got a deep, dark side. And did we talk about cognitive dissonance?
Wait, but hang on, though. That's actually why I invite him into Cult Night, because he will make the sexist comments that I won't.
This guy sounds like Sega Geek, kind of. Like his voice, doesn't it?
Yeah.
Kind of sounds like Sega Geek. Sega Geek, is that you?
No, it's not. It's not Sega Geek.
Are you sure? Because he sounds a lot like him. Sega Geek! Look, dog, you know I am. You know what? I'm gonna bring Sega Geek in the room.
Now, so hang on. I just want to say something to Shadow, right? Very important. So Shadow, we got to the point of identifying, or at least me showing you what the ego.
So, incidentally, do you know what Sega Geek looks like, just out of curiosity?
Yeah, we know Sega Geek.
Okay, and who am I?
Nice app, dude. Hey, listen, yeah, but so we got to the point, of, basically identifying the things that creates the real problem, which is the ego mind. Now, we've still got agreement or disagreement, but...
Well, we do have to some degree in terms of the ego mind now, in terms of we can't kind of broke it down that most people refer to that as dogma, in terms of more standard parlance.
Okay. Now, that's one aspect of it. The other aspect is, well, what does ego do to people? Well, it produces, what does this because there's a thing called cognitive dissonance, and that's the stuff.
Can I break in for 1 second? If you have the sidebar open, just close it, please, Rob, because it seems to be distracting you.
Oh, no, it's not.
Oh, okay.
No, it's not that at all.
Okay.
It's all right. It's all right, Wolf.
I need to talk to this guy with my hand puppets.
Okay, now, so
that was so fun.
Have you heard of the term cognitive dissonance?
Of course.
Okay. Well, what it is, my definition is this, right? And I think I've got it 100% correct. So,
Sir, I'm bringing the real Sega Geek in there.
All right, mate. All right. Just let me finish this, please, Luke. So.
Finish it, almighty enlightened one.
So, what it is, the false state, right? And it must be false. Don't buy into the bullshit about, two states. That confuses the thing. It must be this case of a false state and a true state held in mind at exactly the same time. And when they do, cognitive dissonance fires off, and then there's a very consistent pattern of behaviours. Very, very, very consistent.
Mm-hmm.
And they relate to the fight-flight response.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Now, what they are, fight-flight. So what they specifically are, the person will start name-calling, and it's really petty and nasty, and they get very creative as they verbally attack the
kind of,
or they take. Oh no, yeah, good call, mate. They take the truth state on board and repurpose it. Right, so there's that aspect going on. And as we go and have this discussion with these guys, I'll show you exactly how that. Welcome back, Sega.
Sega, talk real quick. Hold on, let's Sega just say a few words.
No, wait till I'm finished.
No, listen to the voice.
No.
Listen to the motherfucking voice, Robbie.
I want to do the cognitive dissonance.
Actually, I'm sorry, can I cut in for 1 moment here?
Yeah,
okay, now
I found
cut in.
that the conversation has gotten to the point that it's been being constantly disrupted. And quite frankly, I feel like your enlightened friend is simply trolling the room.
No,
I
it's
feel like
not.
No, dealt with a lot of trolls in my day, and you act just like my buddy Headless Chicken, man.
That's because Headless Chicken.
He's been trolling me for 6 years now.
Hey, hang on.
You shouldn't want to be me as Headless Chicken.
Look, hang on. Person in need. Hey, Shadow, are you interested in us helping you get rid of that person permanently?
Yeah.
What, Headless?
Yeah.
No, he's a buddy of mine.
Oh, no, I don't want to hurt him.
Yeah.
No, you don't understand. He's been trolling me because I don't mind him trolling me.
Oh, okay.
You can reach a certain balance with people that are trolls but are still respectful to the room. And it's a matter of finding that balance.
So you're saying you found your own version of Luke Dog and I remind you of him. Alright, I got it.
No, actually I'm saying that I can usually with people manage to find some kind of balance when they don't keep interrupting. When
balance is for sissies on weight diets. Okay? We don't balance here. We'll pig out if we want.
Luke, please. Now,
Hey, don't you please me.
And there we go again. And this is what I'm talking
Oh,
about.
that's like Hellas Chicken. Yeah, right. Hellas Chicken's a wannabe Luke dog.
please, Luke.
Nobody's like me ever in life. Ever. Ever.
Yeah. Okay, so
Never been there, Luke dog.
cognitive dissonance is right. The fight-flight pattern, right? So that's what happens. They get really nasty and petty and carry on. That's one part of it. They block information, they repurpose information that relates to the threat. So there's more lies are created, more lies are added to the bag. And then there's a face-saving pattern. And then finally there's the flight. They run away. They leave. Now what I'm saying to you is that that's what's going to happen to these people. Something along those lines.
Yeah.
Okay, when you mentioned cognitive dissonance, I thought you meant the standard definition, which is the unpleasant emotion that results from believing two contradictory things at the same time.
No.
That's how pretty much the rest of the world uses it. So, okay, never mind. Excuse my confusion.
Tell them,
yeah, but I'm right and they're wrong. Righto, hang on. So we're going to start the process. Right, we're going to start the process. Hang on, Luke, settle there. We want to read the side chat, and I'm going to see if I can pick up from the chat, right, the behaviours. Right, so now we say, here I am, bullshit, Rob is full of shit, you're full of shit, Rob. So, you know, you can see there that we've got the petty attacking going on already. The reason that this guy's in here, right, is because he said, I'm not scared of you, Rob. And when I saw that, I knew straight away that, you know, when you make a statement like that, I knew the truth. He is actually scared. He's getting real worried. Because I'm a real threat to him. Because he lives in Australia, right, and I can take him to court. Well, I've got to still, Shadow, I've got to respect what you're saying. I've got to go to the solicitors here and find out what I can and can't do about it. But whatever I find out, I am going to apply to this dude.
Yeah, it really depends on Australian law, but most likely, from what you've described, I'm fairly sure that it's not going to be actionable.
Yeah, but I think there's a case to argue that it should be actionable, and maybe there's some, you know, we could take that sort of line. I don't know.
Well, a lot of that is because the person that's sitting there calling you doesn't necessarily know if there's any pre-existing health conditions that they might be causing conflict with.
Yeah, I'd like to argue that one actually. Firstly, they know what they do is wrong. They do it. That's undeniable, right? So they're culpable. The second aspect is they push it to the boundaries of causing the health issues, and they ride that horse. And that's all conscious, deliberate action, and it's quite cruel. But this
it's cruel. I agree with you, but what I'm saying is, unless they know, for example, that somebody has a heart condition, I don't know what your situation was, but unless they know the person has some kind of heart condition or has some kind of blockage that could lead to a stroke, unless they are aware of this, usually it's not actionable, unfortunately.
Okay, well, laws can change, and I'm a significant individual in terms of.
And Australian law is different than U.S. law, so there's that as well.
Okay, so now we've got Jello Shots, and Jello Shots takes because Jello Shots likes to project that he's a lovable, cuddly, fat teddy bear. I threw the fat in just to wind him up a bit. Now, so if we go down, hang on, they keep typing and it keeps jumping, so doesn't matter, boys, I'll sit here all fucking night. Hiya, cool Shadow me, so it's lovely little Jello.
I have my channels as well.
Yeah. Why is I bad, says Bulldog. So he's actually toning things down. He's reining his checks in. Loud voices. Yeah, all right. Shit, blah, blah. How can be so bad so he's saying, this is Jello, he's saying, how can I be so bad? Now, you got to remember, they hold both the true and false state in head. That's just the way it works. So they know that they've been naughty boys. They just don't like being caught out. How can it be so bad when I feel so good? With a bag full of listening.
Actually, if I may, in my dealings with Jello, he usually likes being called out for being naughty.
Oh, that's interesting. Not in my case.
He knows that when I invite him to hangouts, so he will say the crude sexist things about the female speakers that I won't.
Yeah, yeah.
In that sense, I bring him
Oh,
into
that's interesting. Hold it. Shadow. Sorry, you said something interesting. So, in other words, he...
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So interesting our views have dropped.
Well, it's interesting to me. So you're saying that he
interesting
sort of
to
plays
you, not the viewers.
the sexual titillator.
God, that's so boring.
I bring him in to act in the place of my id.
Oh, I don't understand it.
Boring.
Okay, shush, Luke. Shush.
It is actually it represents the animal part of oneself, so to speak.
I represent the voice of the
Now
voiceless.
I know what you're talking about. That's what I thought you meant. Yeah. So
Luke Dog is sick of you. That's what they're
but
saying in the comments.
that's an ego side of the equation, the selfish side in function, because that's where all the sex side sits.
In terms of classical
ignore our viewers.
psychology,
Let's ignore the
he
viewers
actually
and
referred
please
to as the id, but that's okay.
Yeah, fuck them. Okay, so now, feels so good. Now, here's an interesting one from Bulldog, right? He's a real prick. Isn't he a prick, Luke?
Fuck you, Bulldog, you cocksucking motherfucking piece of fucking shit. You ain't nothing. You ain't even a pimple on Roddy Piper's ass. That's how low on the totem pole you go.
Right.
And he's
Yeah,
dead.
hang on, Luke. Hang on, Luke. Hang on, Luke.
That is.
Hang on, Luke.
Fuck that cocksucker.
So,
Not in the gay way he likes. Fuck that queer. He's a fucking piece of shit. And you
now, what he says, Luke, hang on,
Luke.
Luke. What he says is, with a bag full of lithium, Shadow is my lawyer.
That's all he talks about every day is lithium. That's all he talks
So it
about.
looks like you got yourself a job.
It's because he
No,
has lithium in his fucking water.
No, I am certainly not. I would never portray myself as being one.
No, I understand. But
You ain't
what
Hulk Hogan.
So what he's saying, see, he picks up everything. So this is the ego mind. It's very sharp. But I call it rat cunning because it's a nasty type of nasty. But he made a mention of lithium. Now, when I had the healthcare stay, I ended up on lithium. Right? All due to these people.
Hang on a second, I'm sorry. If I may ask, what actually was the healthcare scare? What was the circumstance?
Well, what happened, and we've got the video of it, they escalated, because I didn't know that I was being trolled, right? And I'm just talking about my book, and it's 2 years' worth of work, and I'm all excited by it, and I get into these pricks, and they just do the trolling thing on me.
2 years, really? How long is it? I'm sorry, I have to ask. How long is it? 2 years?
8 years.
What, the book or writing the book?
Yeah.
Yeah, 2 years it took me to write.
8 years.
Well, actually, it's longer than that because it's
8 years. That's what I said.
The study started 20 years back, but I took 2 years off.
But it was 8 years
to do the final bit of work, and then I published.
I'm sorry. Excuse me, Luke. I was asking Rob a question. I couldn't hear the answer.
I said you're excused.
Okay, Luke, please. Anyway, so there's that. You know, there's quite a build-up, and then I get online and I run into these bloody clowns, and I didn't know that they were trolling me. I didn't understand.
I'm sorry. I asked how long, and I didn't actually hear the answer because you were spoken over.
Oh, okay.
Wow,
sorry, Luke, please. So you're talking about the time it took to write the book, or what?
Yeah, the actual writing time. Yeah.
I'd say 2 years.
Cool.
The actual.
That's actually kind of fun. Mine took 10.
Yeah.
So not bad. Yeah.
Oh, but there's still a bunch of research time, you know, before all that. But anyway, so what kicked it off was the Rwandan massacre, right? 1990, I think, somewhere around then. That started the inquiry, and it eventually resolved into me leaving work, right? 2 years commitment, get the damn thing done, and then get it published. $15,000 worth of cash went out to the publisher, which was a fucking rip-off. So I was getting caught down.
Was this before EPUB?
Hey?
Was this before EPUB?
No, it was around the same time, but I wasn't familiar with publishing, and all I thought is, well, I'm ready. I'll pay the top publisher, right?
Oh, yeah, that's not the right way to go. Yeah.
I know that now.
No, I'm sorry you got burned like that, man. That
Yeah.
sucks.
Yeah, well, that's right. But anyway, I front up with these guys, and so I put all that shit behind me, and I just keep moving along. And I run into these guys, and they do the trolling stuff, and you know exactly what that is. And they got me elevated. Yeah, they got me really worked up, right? And then
And you got sick.
Yeah, no, I'm fine. And
We
they
got
got
an
me.
ulcer.
Yeah. Well, I haven't got an ulcer yet. That's a good pickup.
I'm really losing track of the conversation here with all the
Shush
interruptions.
and listen then.
Luke, please. Now.
You're welcome.
Yeah. Thanks, Luke.
Now,
Now,
I'd like to point out, if I may, right quick, around about 3-4 months ago, I did actually have a stroke, so it is sometimes a little bit harder to focus in on things, but the distraction makes it much worse.
all right, Luke, I'm going to have to mute you now.
Don't you mute me. I'll mute myself before you mute me.
All right, okay. Thank you. Okay.
I
Thanks.
say I was muting myself, but I will.
Yeah, all right. Thank you. Okay. But, I have the utmost respect for Luke, so I just...
Thank you. I respect you too, even though your mustache is crooked.
Yeah, all right, dude. Now, so I come online, I meet the troll group, get wound up, right? It's interpreted by others, right, as bipolar, basically, at the end of the day.
What others?
What happened was after I'd finished with these guys, I asked my wife, because I was really exasperated, I asked my wife to come and speak to them, and because I thought, because she's a lovely lady, right, I thought if she gets on, they'll hear my voice, but she didn't want to do that, right, which I felt, golly, you've let me down. That's how I was at the moment. And then the next
I find that's understandable. My wife never wants to talk to G-Man, to say the least.
Yeah, I don't blame her either.
Shadow, leave my hair alone, man.
Yeah, so that led to, a call for the ambos. Is that your fight back, Bosha? Now,
No, this is a drama llama.
all right.
I figured you might distract him.
There was a
Did you
call.
get that at the WWE while you're watching World's Worst Entertainment with their gay bunny rabbit humping guys?
Hang on,
Llama.
dude. Hang on. Yeah, so that led to the ambos being called, and then a doc was involved. He made the call of bipolar. Bipolar sent me to care. I was in care for 19 days, right?
I'm sorry, did you say 19?
Yes, 19.
Okay. I can't. The accent.
Okay, that's fine. So I'm in there for 19 days, right? And while I'm there, right, I really still felt that I was okay. There was no issue, right? It was all just about, from my perspective, it was all about these priests raising my frustration level. But the system didn't really hear my voice. They'd made a judgment call. They'd applied the lithium, and you've got no fucking option. But anyway, through that process, I stubbornly insisted on having an appeal, and I eventually got one, right?
Okay.
And I won that appeal, so we've got the documentation for that. So
What exactly was this appeal? I don't necessarily know the process there. I know in the U.S. that people, when they get committed, it's a Section 8, and you go in initially for a 72-hour eval, and then after they let you out, then after the eval, they come to some kind of decision. But you can either check yourself in or have them pink slip you, and if you're essentially sectioned in this case, you end up having to go before a court sometimes to actually get out. Is it a similar process, or?
no, it's not a court. It's
Okay.
3 senior professionals from the hospital.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, within the field. Oh, sorry. 3 senior people within the field right? And,
Okay.
yeah. So it's like a tribunal, and you go in
cool.
and you present your case. I had a lawyer. The doctors came in, and the bottom line, and cut a long story short, I won that case and was allowed to go. And I could have chucked the lithium away.
Well, if I may, when you say you won the case, what were the findings? I mean, win's kind of vague.
Yeah, interesting question. I'm released from the, what was it, the order? Hey?
The treatment order.
Yeah, I was released from the treatment order. Basically what that means is that you're basically free to go, and your rights are returned to you, and you're able to determine medical treatment again. In other words, I can throw the lithium away, my choice. But I was advised by the medical staff to that it has to be weaned off. So I continued on.
That's actually a big thing with lithium. There are certain blood levels you need to maintain, and if the level's either too high or too low or what have you, it can be potentially dangerous. And yeah, if you don't wean somebody off, it can have pretty adverse side effects.
Yeah, well, and I remember reading the literature on it, and that's exactly what it says. You know, they really pump up that you've got to be careful. So
yeah, it can also cause liver damage if you take it for too long as well.
Well, I think that's actually starting.
Come on, why can't you say hi?
Well, in a minute, mate. I just want to finish talking with.
All right, 1 minute. Go.
Okay, dude. Okay. Yeah. Anyway, so that's pretty much the background. I think that'll do. So what we're going to do now is. Oh, here's a thought for you, dude. Shadow.
Here's a thought. Why does a grown man have so many stuffed animals?
No, they're not stuffed animals. They're puppets.
Yeah, they look pretty cool, actually. You heard the Shadow. You heard the term "the devil's in the detail."
Well, yeah.
Yeah, that's absolutely 110% true. What you'd learn by watching for these cues of cognitive dissonance behaviour, and you can spot it. Almost, we become. It's almost like we appear as mind.
I'm sorry. Once again, you're not using the standard definition. What are you meaning by cognitive dissonance? Again, it's been a little bit of a while.
That's all right. So remember when we were getting the information on board, we were getting a faulty idea plus the truth.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. Now it's bringing those two to the fore, and because they're now in the fore, cognitive dissonance that occurs. How do they come to the fore? Well, externally, someone's holding up the truth state. They're saying, no, you're bullshitting. Here's the evidence, right? That then triggers cognitive dissonance behaviors.
Well, if you're holding two contradictory ideas at the same time, yes.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, no, it's not. That's your definition. The actual,
I'm sorry. That's the rest of the world's definition. Sorry.
Well, it's wrong. It's wrong. The really true thing that occurs, and
Wait,
it's
you
really
muted Sega Geek?
Hang on, he knows. He's fine.
You said 1 minute, a minute and a half ago.
Sorry, I meant to ask for two.
Actually, I'm sorry. I'm going to cut in for a moment. If you don't mind, Rob, there's an occasional thing that I do. The last time I ran one of these, it was actually with Nate Cunningham. I don't know if you're familiar with him or not, but I refer to it as fireside chat. If you wouldn't mind, for the sake of the lack of interruptions, would you mind coming on to one of my channels at some point for a fireside chat? Would you feel comfortable with that?
Oh, yeah, that's fine.